Please, come closer.
What is it?
Will you go penguin sledding with me?
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're ranking every season of Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra.
I realized I love you, Korra.
I can't.
Korra!
For this list, we're taking a look at both these acclaimed animated series set within the world of Avatar and categorizing what we believe to be the weakest season all the way to the most phenomenal. Though let's be honest, both Aang and Korra have raised the bar for Western animation. So if you're one of the few who haven't checked them out, do yourself a favor and binge both. As always, be on the lookout for spoilers down the line, and let us know your personal placements for each season in the comments below. Number 7. Spirits: The Legend of Korra. Well, we had to start somewhere, and sadly, Korra's second outing stumbled as opposed to expanding on the solid foundation of her debut. So what went wrong? Well, given how Korra was supposed to only be a single season, the sudden need for subsequent sequels annihilated the chance of a more cohesive story. The concept of a civil war between the North and South Poles, along with a deeper dive into the relationship with spirits, sounded incredible, and yet they ultimately felt shallow by the end. It didn't help that Unalaq was a woeful excuse for a villain. Did we mention the filler? There is so much unnecessary filler in this season. We love Bolin, but his mover career was not interesting. And dare we even discuss the disaster zone that was the Korra, Mako, Asami love triangle? So does Season 2 do anything innovative or compelling? Yes, it does, and his name is Avatar Wan.
My name is Wan, and I will show you how I became the first Avatar.
The flashback to the time of the first Avatar wasn't only a visual treat with its art style, but greatly developed the mythos in ways fans were not expecting but adored nonetheless. In fact, the strength of its storytelling alone has had many claiming that Beginnings is the best episode in The Legend of Korra hands down.
Different groups of people must learn to live together. This is my mission, to use Rava's light spirit to guide the world toward peace.
So at least Spirits has that going for it. Number 6. Air: The Legend of Korra. Korra was always going to struggle right out of the gate, given that diehard fans wanted nothing more than to see the gang again, and not a new Avatar.
I'm the Avatar! You gotta deal with it!
But you gotta give her credit, not only did she prove herself a natural leading lady, but was made all the more compelling given how she was Aang's diametrical opposite. A hot-headed adolescent wanting to prove herself worthy of the Avatar name, whose emotional outbursts often got her into a whole heap of trouble. Thankfully, Republic City made for a fun setting for the new Avatar to stretch her legs in, made all the better by a brilliant supporting cast, especially the likes of Lin Beifong and Tenzin. Amon was also a solid antagonist, whose anti-bending rhetoric and duplicity made for some nifty social commentary.
One day, my father confronted this man. But when he did, that firebender took my family from me. Then, he took my face.
We can't exactly call this season perfect. The Korra, Mako, Asami love triangle wasn't so much compelling as it was a detriment to all players involved. And the fact the world seemed so much smaller compared to the sprawling wonder of The Last Airbender rubbed some the wrong way. Still, an okay start for the newest Avatar. Number 5. Balance: The Legend of Korra. It may have been filled with ups and downs, but we'll be damned if Korra's ultimate conclusion wasn't satisfying. In the wake of the events of the Red Lotus, the fourth and final season spends much of its time addressing Korra's trauma and internal conflict over her readiness to continue as Avatar. All the while, the metal-bending dictator Kuvira declares Earth Kingdom supremacy, and lays the groundwork for another potential war.
Anyone who crosses our borders or stands in our way will be crushed.
Balance certainly has a sluggish start, with it taking a very long time for Korra to get her head back in the game. With the exception of certain episodes, such as Korra alone, which was amazing, the slow pace of the opening episodes does drag the final outing down a touch. But when it gets going, it is non-stop. We've got a battle with a giant colossus, we have the return of the queen herself, Toph Beifong,
Nice to see you again, Twinkle Toes.
and lest we forget, the series ended on the confirmation that Korra Sami was officially canon. And much rejoicing was had in the fandom that day. Number 4. Water. Avatar: The Last Airbender. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, or in this case, a boy trapped in an iceberg.
Stop!
The first season of Avatar does a wonderful job of presenting the world of bending, the four nations, and the budding relationship between our leads. The only thing that water has against it is that, like every other show out there, it was still very much finding its feet. The world wasn't as lived in, the characters weren't as fleshed out, and the stakes were somewhat lessened. That, and it does feature the worst Avatar episode ever in the form of the Great Divide.
You could call it luck. Or you could call it lying.
What?
I made the whole thing up.
That being said, everything else here is great. Episodes such as The Storm revealed just how dark the show was willing to go, and The Siege of the North was a fantastic way to conclude the season. We just can't help but be nostalgic over watching Aang, Katara, Zuko, and Sokka come into their own during their early days. Number 3. Change. The Legend of Korra. In a perfect world, every season of The Legend of Korra would have matched the same quality as its third outing, because change is exceptional across the board.
I can see my path now. There are new airbenders out there, and I'm gonna find them and rebuild the Air Nation.
Characterization is vastly explored and infinitely compelling, from Korra's newfound purpose in seeking the awakened airbenders, all the way to Lin having to deal with old wounds in regard to her family.
I guess this is how it's going to be.
The locales are grander, especially Zaofu. We got to see our boy Zuko make a grand return. How about the villains? Oh, you mean the Red Lotus, the best antagonist since the likes of Azula?
You think freedom is something that you can give or take on a whim. But to your people, freedom is just as essential as air.
This season is also the darkest since its conclusion, while ending in a hard-fought victory for Korra, physically and mentally breaks her. And while the world around her starts to heal, she's left as a shell, unsure of her future. Don't pretend that final shot didn't shatter your heart. Number 2. Fire. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Let's just get the obvious out of the way. Why isn't this, the celebrated final season of The Last Airbender, not at the top? Well, for these final 2 entries, we really had to split hairs. And while they certainly had their fun moments, episodes such as The Headband, Nightmares, and Daydreams, and The Painted Lady didn't ultimately move the story along.
There's only one thing I can do. I'm gonna stay awake straight through to the invasion.
We good? Okay, now we can gush about how amazing the season is, which isn't surprising since it does have some of the franchise's best moments. You've got the long built up yet ultimately doomed invasion during the Day of the Black Sun. The history of Roku in the Avatar and the Fire Lord.
Without you, all my plans are suddenly possible. I have a vision for the future, Roku.
The haunting reveal of Hama and introduction of bloodbending in The Puppet Master. The hilarious satire of the Empire Island players.
Avatar's date! Yip yip!
Katara's vengeful journey and touching reconciliation in the Southern Raiders. And of course, one of the greatest finales in all of television with the 4-part epic that is Sozin's Comet. Not to mention, across all of this, we got to see Zuko's redemption come full circle, Aang completing his destiny, and the world finally balanced. So what could possibly top it? Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Earth, Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is when Avatar went from being a very well-written, kid-friendly cartoon all the way to a generation-defining piece of animated godhood. Building off what made the first season so captivating, Earth not only contains incredible action, but has superb storytelling, successfully tackles mature themes without simplifying them, and, above all, excels with the individual journeys of its characters, without being afraid to weave in darkness and despair when needed. You want specifics? This season marked the start of Zuko's long, tormented journey to find redemption, filled with more painfully human moments than we care to count. It gave us Toph Beifong, arguably one of the greatest female characters in animation, whose sass and strength made her a standout.
I am the greatest earthbender in the world! Don't you two dunderheads ever forget it!
Oh, and also Azula, Zuko's twisted sister whose violent sense of superiority quickly catapulted her up as arguably Avatar's greatest villain.
Don't flatter yourself. You were never even a player.
Need more? Okay, episode highlights. We've got Zuko alone, an incredible character study that explores Zuko's conflicted mentality.
My name is Zuko, son of Ursa and Fire Lord Ozai, Prince of the Fire Nation and heir to the throne.
The Blind Bandit, Toph's unforgettable introduction.
Your winner and still the champion, the Blind Bandit!
Lake Laogai, a terrifying look at Ba Sing Se's shadowy underbelly based on actual accounts of real-world labor camps. Tales of Ba Sing Se, Leaves from the Vine, will always make us cry.
If only I could have helped you. Leaves from the vine.
And The Crossroads of Destiny, a finale filled with tension, intimacy, betrayal, and dare to allow its heroes to lose, on the darkest of cliffhangers at that.
The Earth Kingdom has fallen.
Yeah, Avatar's second season is the furthest thing from a sophomore slump. Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.